What's happening, everybody? It is your boy Ronimus Prime and my co-host, my cohort in crime, Alan Lynch. How you doing today, brother?
I'm pretty good. It's good to be back. Uh,
Yes. So, as per our promo, this is the first, or should I say, inaugural episode of the stuff that doesn't get recorded. I think we should do a Patreon and call it the shit that doesn't get recorded. You know, gotta get that spicy money, as they call it. You know what I mean? But anyway, though, this is our pop culture show. This is the show where once again we'll talk about any and everything that interests
and
us. Because
just kind of just chill, just shoot, talk pop culture, talk what's in the news, what's going on. There's a lot of stuff going on in the comic book spaces. There's a lot of stuff going on in the indie spaces. Uh, so just kind of get into it.
yeah, so this is an idea. It's actually kind of I'm actually really happy because as I said in our promo, this is an idea me and Alan have been working on for probably consciously and subconsciously for like a year. We tend to have a lot of conversations, and man, look, it's always something that gets brought up, and I'm like, we should be talking about that, and I'm just glad we're finally able to do it. Plus, uh, when it comes to Secret Society of Black Comics, one of the I wouldn't say criteria, but one of the is would I say criteria or one of my requirements for even helping to start the group and being a part of it was we talk pop culture. You know, Black indies are a big focus, but we want you guys to know it's not the only focus, and we're finally getting around to fulfilling part of the mission that has been underserved. So we're gonna start off talking about Kickstarters and all the kerfuffle there. You want to take it away, Alan?
Yeah, I've been pretty busy, but when I popped into Facebook within the last week in a few of the forums and spaces, people have been talking about Kickstarters being late, calling out creators for tardiness and such. So it's kind of brought a spotlight onto the platform and the creators and how they're running their campaigns. So, and people were being called out. A lot of people got called out. A lot of people were trying to defend themselves. A lot of big people who are bigger in this space too were basically some of the bigger offenders. My take on it is you kind of have to understand the evolution of Kickstarter within the indie comic book space. So when Kickstarter first started, it was not the buy and sell space that it is now. It was more of a true crowdfunding platform, meaning that if I did a comic book, you were not buying the comic book. You were giving me the money and the opportunity to create a comic book. You were putting your faith in me that I would take the money
Alan,
and do something.
speak up a little bit.
I said you were giving me the money with the hope that I will take your money and do something with it and produce a comic book and then you'd buy it. But along the way, it kind of changed where people started to offer the people who were backing the campaigns the opportunity to either get in earlier on products or get in on a level that was a little cheaper so that there was that kind of that kind of incentivism. Hey, if I help you, you can get this product. So it's grown over the years. And in the beginning, there wasn't digital comics weren't as prevalent as they are now. So when you back to comic book, there was no digital tools. It was always physical. So there was always a part where people were backing a book and they weren't getting the book. They were just supporting the creators. So fast forward to how it is now, it's a more of a pre-selling marketing kind of thing. So you get people technically pre-selling a book to an audience who's expecting a book. And there's a lot of things that can go wrong there, especially when you look at projects similar in the Epiphany engine. Not calling out Epiphany engine. person say, I'm just that was fun. A lot of the fun comes straight out of the Kickstarter.
Your audio is
Whereas,
messing a little bit. There we go.
okay, well, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was saying,
I don't know if it's conflicting with the background music we got going because I'm adjusting the background music, but yeah, you should be okay now. Don't worry,
yeah,
people. We're gonna get microphones hooked up. I got microphones. I just gotta have space to hook it up, but we're gonna get that hooked up.
yeah. So what was I saying? Usually, the rule of thumb now is to try to have the book at least 90% finished before you even go to Kickstarter, and that is to help prevent issues with production, lateness, and that kind of stuff. But the truth of the matter is, there's a lot of things that you can try to plan for, but shit will happen. People get sick, printers shut down, people run off with the money, uh, people overbook. You can get a colorist who is doing something for you, but he's also doing it for seven other people. So you're in this little queue and you're kind of stuck. So I do understand why projects will become late. Some of it is a bit of bad planning. When you see sometimes a book is like 2 and 3 years late, that's sad. That's bad management. But shit can happen. You know what I mean? I've seen creators who've been who just have a string of bad luck. Either be it health reasons, life just be life, and so my when I look at it from I see it as you should try to protect yourself in terms of try to do the best case scenario in terms of setting up your Kickstarter, trying to hit those deadlines, not asking for too little money, because that's another thing too. When you ask for a sum of money and it doesn't cut it, you can also run yourself into trouble. Uh, and if you also run a campaign too long in terms of you're working on a project too long, sometimes the economy can change. Printing can go up. We saw in this last 2 years, the cost of printing has just skyrocketed to a point that if you were budgeting with one price in mind, your pricing could be just totally off. Shipping is also going up, which means if you're just going to ship out stuff, you're going to have to either eat that cost or adjust. So there's so many variables in terms of when you're trying to do this. Um, so in terms of you as a consumer looking in, how are you seeing it?
So, like with Kickstarter, like with most like crowdfunding things, I think the original purpose was like I have an idea, and I wanted to ask you guys to help me bring this idea to reality, and then from there we get it. And look, I'm a bit of a realist. Like I get, life be life and things happen, but because we always hear the conversations about like like grace and mercy, but something's been on my mind is like, how long does grace and mercy go? Because at a certain point, I either want the product or I want my money back. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because like you said, times are not just hard for you, they hard for me too. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and these books, and this could be applied to anything, right? But these books, they cost. They like, these indies are what, like $10 or whatever.
Yeah.
Some of them more or less, and it's like at a certain point, I don't got just 10, 12, 15, 20, 50, whatever to just be throwing at something that I might not see. So as a consumer, it's like at some point I
But
get it, things happen,
Mhm.
but I gotta see this. I gotta see this thing manifest. I gotta see it done. And then you with all the problems, like you take like the Epiphany engine, like I've asked numerous times, like, has it left the cultural zeitgeist? And we've seen where it was like brought up, and I've seen people literally like comment like, "Oh shit, I forgot about it." You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
that's something that the creators themselves will have to face, right? Where by the time the book comes out, will it be relevant? Will people remember? Will people care? Something I want to ask you is, should I think I kind of do it myself? When should more people do it? Where should they count back in a Kickstarter as a risk, looking at it as I may not get my product. I'm just putting down this $10, this $20, and I just may not get the thing.
You mean like should like consumers? I think okay, so I think something that probably both sides need to be aware of is like there's risk, there's inherent risk on both sides, right?
Yeah.
You as a creator, you run the inherent risk of, oh, I don't know. I'm not saying the United States, but I'm saying some country with the military power disrupting things, causing fuel costs to go up, tariffs, other shit. They may throw a monkey wrench in your plans. And then, I think we as backers got to understand there's an inherent risk that, we may not see the product. And then probably adjust your funding to a level like it's like when you go gambling, right? Don't
Yeah.
don't bring no money to the casino you afraid of losing. If all you got is $500 to your name, why are you taking that to the fucking casino? You can't afford to lose that money. Sit your ass at home. Same thing with a Kickstarter. If you can't afford to lose, let's say $10, don't back it. But there is still, as a consumer, it's like I still do want my product, but I'm saying it's just one of those things that you got to be able to mitigate the risk versus reward and whatnot. And I think that's on both sides. But I think it is wrong that, or it can be wrong for creators to just continuously ask for grace and mercy with no signs of progress. And then for like all of those other like
But I'll
life,
say, I'll say this about where you say there's no signs of progress, right? To be honest, a lot of this stuff is not in the creator's hands. The creator's name is on everything. He is the face of the product and the project. But sometimes outside of once he's written the script or he's managed the people or whatever he's done, it's in the hands of the artist, it's in the hands of the colorists, editors, letterers, uh, people who do the covers, whatever it is. So there's only so much pressure he can put on people because every single change of the guard is a cost. So when someone has to change an artist midway in a project or two-thirds or a third into a project, that's cost that he has to eat. So yes, the most he can do is communicate these things to the consumer. And the issue with that is, and let's be frank, once a consumer reaches a certain level of being disgruntled, they don't give a shit. They don't
no, they
want to
don't.
hear. They don't want to hear the excuse that the pages aren't done yet, because that's the only excuse as a creator I can say. I can't. What can I say? I said, well, I sent out pages 21 through 27 to be colored. They're not done yet. That's all I can say because that's all, you know what I mean. So to be fair, the creators do feel a lot of pressure in these situations. Um, in terms of, I saw someone saying like, should you kind of put these people on blast, or should you kind of air the dirty laundry in the streets? That I believe is on an individual basis
Yeah,
because
because
people have
it
their
all
own
it all
personalities.
depends. It all depends on the creator. Like if you, because this is where grace and mercy and goodwill, and I think we throw these terms around for any and everybody, and it's just like, nah. Even people that have a good name, it's like at some point you got to stand and deliver. You know, um, should you put them on blast? I mean, think about it like this, right? For every creator listening, if you ordered a product and you didn't get it, like you're not gonna keep that quiet. You're gonna say something. You know, if you ordered something from somebody that's running a shop on Amazon, like, yeah, you've got grace and mercy, like, oh, okay, I didn't get it. Let me contact through the proper channel, see if I can get it. Okay, cool. You promised me I'm gonna get it. And I still don't get it. Okay, cool. Let's do this again. Okay. You said you're gonna send it to me. I don't get it. Now. This is the second time. Then you do it a third time, a fourth time, a fifth time. You know, like how at some point grace and mercy and all that shit gonna run out, and you just like no, like okay, you all need to know don't fuck with this person because they can't do the thing that they said they was gonna do for you. You're not gonna get your product. You know what I mean? So it is kind of on an individual basis, but I don't per se see anything wrong with it. It's probably just how you go about doing it, I guess. You know, like you look at Epiphany Engine and it's just like, you know, it's been 2 years. Like I backed it, I want to say June 14th, 2024. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And you look now, we do get, you know, some updates, and I'll be the first to admit some of them updates, I'll just keep it a whole, I'll just be frank and keep it real. Some of them updates didn't tell me shit. I'm just gonna be one as a consumer. They didn't tell me shit. I'm like, I don't care about these other things. I know you still got a business to run, but I backed the Epiphany Engine. That's the only thing I want to hear about. Tell me about this, and it's like, here it is now, and it's like.
So I want to ask you a question. So as a consumer, let's say, what would help you to get back on board or get back into the good graces of a creator who was late on a project? Just getting the project would be enough, or should they kind of give you something extra? What would, because these creators also live on time with the fans, so it does hurt a creator, because I am a person, I may not go into the forums and kick up a fuss. I will just quietly never back your campaign again. I just never back. You know what I mean? I will just never back your campaign again, or I may never just to have anything to deal with it. So, which means that sometimes these things can damage a person's not only their reputation, but their projects going forward. What, as a consumer, could a creator do to try to see if they can get you back on board?
So we're gonna look at like the Epiphany Engine. I'm at a, and like I said, I mean, like I said, this is what the show is for, is be real. I honestly don't know what you could do right now, other than I get the book and then I be wowed, because right now, I mean, we've talked, like I said, this is the shit, this the shit don't get recorded. Like, I'm at a point now, like with the Epiphany Engine, I just want C+ work or better. But now if I get this book and I'm truly wowed, I'll be like, okay, yeah, they have problems, but I might could back it again. You know what I mean? But outside of that, I mean, I don't know. I guess I would just being speaking honestly, I would be kind of leery to back it again, you know, or back that creator again, just because it's like, because I think
would something like the Epiphany Engine sour you to other creators coming with something similar?
No.
So you kind of give everybody a fair shake.
Yeah, because it's like, so, because the purpose of this show is to be real. Like, we have talked privately about some of the things that we felt probably were handled wrong with the Epiphany engine. That doesn't mean that another creator won't have a similar idea, look at kind of what succeeded and didn't succeed, and come up with a better plan. So I would want to be fair, if let's say, um, let's just go with Secret Society, right? Let's say me, you, Alan, I said Alan, my bad. Me, you, Obasi, and Imani, we said we're gonna try to do an Epiphany engine like project. We saw what went wrong, what went right, and we just came up with a better game plan. You know, if I was an outside consumer and you showed me how it's going to be structured, what realistic goals were, because I think that was probably one of the problems with the Epiphany engine was that it didn't set realistic expectations and goals. You know, we do that. I might could, I might could back that. It's all about how you plan it out, and then I always wonder, like, do you creators plan for the unexpected? Because that's something that I was always taught. Like, you gotta plan for the unexpected. Like,
Yeah,
any
we do
Murphy's
we
law,
do
anything
plan
that
for
can go wrong will go wrong.
we do plan for the unexpected within within a certain within a certain to a certain point, because there's certain things there's no amount of planning or no amount of contingency plans that you can set in place. So I'll give you an example. If you're going to do a book and you're going to do it to Kickstarter, the only way to kind of safeguard that you're not going to have to change the artist would be to announce the Kickstarter once the artwork is finished, because there's no variable there that that you can be sure about to say, well, this and this will never happen, or this and this will not come through. So this the only really safeguard is before you announce, make sure you have a certain amount of the project done. That's the only safeguard. If you are announcing a project, trying to fund a project all from scratch, you're asking for problems. You're gonna get issues, and that's from
I mean,
experience.
so
Because
it's something that, like, man, we've talked about, like, what good how good does, like, having everybody under, like, a contract so that
bullshit. Contract doesn't do anything. A contract, a contract. Let's be real. Contracts and those things work best when you have money, a lot of money at stake, lawyers and laws and that kind of shit. When you're a small person and you cannot afford to basically enforce your contract, it's just a piece of paper, or it's just what I mean. I have been in a lot of things where it was just better to leave it than to try to pursue it. We kind of get caught up in the sunken cost fallacy, but sometimes it's just best to walk away from certain things. And that's why it's very important to try to always align yourself with people that you trust and have a good reputation and have good work ethic and that kind of stuff. Shit will happen, shit will change. Right now, I am working on a project, and no, through no fault of the individuals, the cost has gone up, either because of trying to get the thing finished in a certain amount of time, or the different mechanisms that we use. As I said, printing has gone up, shipping has gone up. So once you've made a plan that things will ship at this cost, a 5% up will kind of just destroy some of your margins, right?
Mhm.
So only if you kind of put, which you can do, is put a little bit of a padding in there for that. And that kind of brings it on to another situation too, is that, to be honest, most Kickstarters, I wouldn't say like the Epiphany, and maybe even the Epiphany engine, they do not fund enough to actually fund the project. I mean, they're basically, there are some people who I know that they do that, but a lot of these smaller guys, they're only recouping some of the cost. A lot of the cost is still on the backs of the creators. You know what I mean? So when you
Mhm.
see someone and they get back 3,000, 4,000, there's no book once you get over a certain amount of pages that cost that much to produce. And that little to produce, I should say.
So let me ask you this question: how much does the per page does it on average cost? I know it's
It
because you can
can
always find like some
flux. Yeah,
starving, huh?
yeah, yeah. It can fluctuate. So you can get a per, let's say, per page cost as an indie creator. And if you want to come in paying a writer, let's say you pay every single person on board, you're looking at a letterer anywhere between 25 to 20. Art can vary from a high end to low end. You can get, as you said, you kind of art is that thing that you get what you paid for. So if you want to produce a decent enough indie book, you're looking at $300 to $350 a page, and that's with
So
most people
let me
on
ask this question, if you're willing to say. Uh, so let's take Diary of Stray Dogs: The Wounded, which is the first issue.
board.
That's out now, folks. You know, promo. That's out now. Go check it out. Uh, what did that run you estimate, if you're willing to say?
I'll be honest, I cannot remember, but I can tell you that it, it is it was around those same page rates, and where things tend to fluctuate too. It's which I didn't put in there is covers. Uh, every single piece of art that you go to an artist to do something for costs you money.
Yeah,
You-
everything, because everybody want to be paid for their work.
everybody,
They're just like you as a writer. If you, because so it's like you when you do these things, right? Because this happens in movies and TV. Like, there's only so many times I can go back and rewrite something before it's like, now you got to pay me extra. You know what I mean? Like, there's a certain amount of rewriting, there's a certain amount of redraws, and it's just like
yeah,
once you exceed a certain amount, it's like that goes above what we contracted, what we talked about. Like, bro, I want to be paid for that. So, but let me ask this, just because we're gonna change topics here soon. What was the estimated overall cost for the Wounded, for Dire Stray Dogs 1? What was the overall estimated cost?
which would be just the small floppy. You're looking at, I would say, a book like that can cost you anywhere from what 30 times, anywhere from, and a person can produce a book of that size and of that quality from anywhere between $3,000 to $6,000.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
the
yeah. I don't know who you work. I can't remember who you worked with, but I mean, you got a lot of quality out of it. Plus, it probably also helped that you wrote the damn thing, so
yeah, yeah.
that cut out a
Uh,
huge
yeah,
cost.
yeah. So if
You
you if
stay.
you if you can, as a creator, learn to do stuff. Some people pick up flatting, some people pick up coloring, some people pick up lettering. These things will help, uh, even down to editing costs. Everyone kind of profits from a comic book first before the creator.
That's like music. That is literally, for those of y'all that don't know. That's like music. Like, everybody gets paid before the artist, but the artist is the person you see first.
Yeah,
Like, go look at how music contracts are structured. Like, the sound engineer, the people who do the technical work will get paid before the actual artist does. Like, I don't even want to go into music contracts, man. I try to listen to an audio book on that shit, bro. I got 8 hours in, and I can tell you, music contracts are a motherfucker, bro.
yeah,
You start to. I challenge anybody to go get a good book on music contracts and just like read it or listen to an audiobook, bruh, that shit'll hurt your head.
Yeah.
Like the ways that like things get paid. Like you ever look at a TV show and it's like they play a song, like they're literally licensing because of how much licensing costs are. They are that 30 seconds is expensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why there's certain it was a show that was on ABC, and it was about a serial killer, and he teams up with this girl. It was set in the 80s, and I remember one of the reviews was like they blew their budget on licensing like all of these 80s rock songs and whatnot. Like that shit is not cheap. But anyway, though, listen, folks, uh, we're gonna have to move on because something me and Al we've talked about. Kickstarter is such a big topic, and we're not gonna spend this whole show talking about this shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Trust me, it's gonna come back up, and we're gonna talk about it again. And also, we just want to make it very clear: like, we don't hate the Epiphany engine, but it has been the driver for some of these conversations. So we're not out attacking people, but it has been the thing that has driven those conversations. But we're gonna move on. You asked me before we started recording, had I seen the Odyssey? And yes, I've
What do you
seen the
think?
Odyssey. I liked it.
Right.
Definitely Christopher. It's a Christopher Nolan movie for sure. But one of the things I said was that if he did the movie the way that the story is, this movie would be like 12 hours long, and that is partially based on his style of storytelling. Like I don't I don't think Christopher Nolan has too many movies that are under an hour and 40 minutes. He's one of those guys that does like them 2 hour, plus long epics.
Yeah.
So, but I enjoyed it. I didn't realize that was Travis Scott in the beginning. He plays the bard.
Yeah.
I did not.
I didn't even know who Travis Scott was. I'm joking. Yeah.
Well, you probably don't. I don't know.
I
You
didn't,
live in Barbados, so I don't know if you listen to American rap
yeah, I
music.
know. I know Travis Scott, but I didn't know. I just said I didn't realize that was him.
I didn't realize until I was listening to the Breakfast Club, and they were like,
Yeah.
the Charlemagne, because I've started to like watching the Breakfast Club on Netflix
Mm.
because there's the stuff that we hear on radio. Their Netflix show, it's kind of like what this show is. Like we say, this show is the stuff, the shit that doesn't get recorded, or the stuff that doesn't get recorded. The Netflix show is the stuff that they start talking about once their mics are off, and I've found that really fun to hear like those real conversations. Like on the radio, they kind of edit themselves. As soon as the mics are off, they're like, "Man, I'm motherfucker with that. That was a stupid motherfucker right there." I was like, "Oh, I like this. This is the real them." But it was Charlemagne that said that was Travis Scott. I didn't know. I did not realize that. I don't think I ever seen Travis Scott without shades on.
Yeah, it was a. I went to see it because I wanted to kind of judge it for myself, and I sometimes try to get ahead of spoilers. But it's to be honest, it's one of those pictures that cannot be spoiled. If you know the story, you're not spoiled. So I kind of actually just sat in the theater, kind of just looking to see how things were going to get interpreted in Nolan's vision because I knew the story. And I was very impressed with the way how the story was structured and it was told. And I love the way how they did the outer sequencing, how they kind of danced around the Trojan War before having to rehash that too. So, and it was very well done.
Yeah.
It
Well,
was very well done.
my interpretation is so. Okay, let's take you back to the original. So what Alan is like saying, if you guys, because I find it odd that in this day and age, there are people that went to school that never had to read the Iliad and the Odyssey, right? I find that because we had to read it in the ninth grade, and then we watched the made-for-TV movie that had Timothy Dalton in it. So this is 1999. My freshman year of high school was 99 into 2000. Uh, there's a juvenile reference there if y'all know what that is. But anyway, So the Iliad is the story of, I think it's Ilia, which was the ancient name for Troy,
Mm,
and then the Odyssey is the story of Odysseus.
yeah,
So the way I took Christopher Nolan's vision is, yes, this is the Odyssey, but it's more focused on Odysseus's actual journey and not the events of the journey. You know,
yeah,
if that makes sense. Like, it's
yeah,
how Odysseus is personally dealing with everything going on, and
yeah.
not
But I,
Odysseus and
but
his
I,
men.
but I, because as I said, I didn't check upon it. I just went into the movie blind. My wife went into it blind,
I did too.
and and I, as I said, one of the things I was just thinking, I was like, even though they're two separate stories, or they can be split up, the Trojan War is such a big aspect of it. I was, how are they going to sidestep this? Because even with, oh, and what little they put in, if you cut out all the Trojan War bits, that movie is still pretty long.
Yeah.
So, and then we know that Troy. So I kind of just told my wife, like, think of the movie Troy, this being a sequel to it, so that she could kind of understand, like, oh, okay, so they're tight because it did do a great job for anyone who didn't know anything. It filled in a lot of the events and the it's without delving to, because I don't think, did they mention Achilles? I don't think they did. I don't think they mentioned any of those heroes from Ajax. They did mention Ajax. I heard Ajax's name. Somebody was the brother of Ajax, but they just kind of really didn't get into all of that stuff. It
No,
was
because to do it, so because of the way that I think Christopher Nolan took it was, I am it's not, it is not about the journey. It's character driven from Odysseus's perspective, right? So that's how I think you're able to sidestep. Like, when they go into Troy, they don't have to show Achilles. They don't have to show any of those people because it's not about them. It's about where Odysseus is
Yeah, but
from Odysseus'
but
point of
this
view.
is all afterwards too, because by this time Achilles he was dead.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is like, you don't you don't have to talk about any of that stuff because Odysseus was there at the beginning of the battle,
Yeah,
so you don't have to talk about any of that. It's really just about like his personal struggles and whatnot, being a man that has to control his own destiny, and then, like they say in the movie, surrendering that control to get back home.
yeah,
Like, they didn't even do the remember, I can't remember the one king, but he basically grocery bagged up all of the winds of the seas, gave it to him. And remember, Odysseus and them had Ithaca in sight, and
yeah,
I
yeah,
can't
yeah.
remember what happened, but then the bag blows open and the winds, and
Yeah,
they didn't even
yeah, yeah,
talk about any of that, you know.
yeah.
I,
He approached it, the way how he approached it was almost as if the gods were real, so they were invisible, so they were what the people kind of believed them to be, so they didn't have much of a physical presence in the
only one
world.
did.
Like, yeah,
Only
and she was still a vision. She was just a vision to Odysseus to a point. If you're thinking about the same person I'm thinking about.
No, it's in that. It's in
Yeah,
that. She's
right. So,
she's real in the sense, but she's only making herself visible
to
to
him.
him, and
Yeah.
that's because where
And
the
there's a lot that ties into that in the end, which if you look at it, it can be a double meaning, where it could be brought on by a lot of the guilt. Because I was talking to my son, and the movie is heavily dealing with honor and being honorable. And Odysseus's kind of downfall was he did a lot of shit that was dishonorable. Even the Trojan horse was a dishonorable trick. You know what I mean? You know
I looked at it
that.
differently and interestingly. I looked at
Pardon?
it differently.
Say that
I
again.
look I said I
No, but
looked at
you
it
look at it
differently.
differently. No, but if you check it, they're not supposed. Okay, remember in the whole story, it's a lot about the laws of Zeus and honoring guests, not treating people badly. That's why the suitors were able to basically take an inch for a mile and just be there and do shit
Yeah,
because of honor. That's why the prince couldn't raise a sword up against him because they would have killed him and they would have been in their right. So even down to Odysseus stealing the cheese and putting the horse, because remember that was a gift to a god, blah blah blah. So you imagine it's almost like a war done in the name of religion. So you kind of dishonoring the god. So and that's what kind of was his downfall. And he kind of realized that he was kind of paying for it. On a side note, I want to ask this: what did you think? Because this is one of the most interesting depictions of the actual Trojan horse. What did you think of it? We usually see it almost like a this thing on wheels. This was a very interesting take on it. When you saw it, what did you think of it?
I was like, it was a more realistic take because it's interesting because we talked about off camera like some of the things that they cut out, but it's interesting when it comes to the Trojan horse, some of the stuff that they put in there, right? Like those men were in there stuck. They were vomiting, shitting, pissing on each other in that water. And I'm like, nobody got dysentery. You know what I mean? I'm like, no. Which also, side note, the the soldier that was killed. Did you know that's I thought that person looked familiar. That's Elliot Page, who was formerly Ellen Page.
Hmm.
I was like, that dude looked like a girl for real, for real. And then saw the end credits, and was like, oh, that's Elliot Page. That's why. And I thought he did a pretty good
Yeah,
job.
yeah, yeah,
A
yeah.
great job.
I was
But no,
actually,
I liked it.
I
I
was
mean,
actually, I was actually surprised when I first watched it because, as I said, the movie's done out of sequence. I was like, the person died in the first almost minute. I was like,
yeah,
the first person in this whole movie just for a minute, but it kind of all pans out when they
yeah,
go to the land of the dead. And as I said, for those, the only reason I'm not going to talk about it, although it is a book that is almost like Titanic spoilers, where yes, the ship sinks, and
yeah.
but
It's like you don't want to.
just so that you want to, I
Yeah,
think
you got to
the
go
beauty is to
experience
experience it.
because you know the story. For those of
Ex-
us that have read the story,
yeah.
so okay, so let's go back to the beginning. Let's go back to the beginning of our little odyssey about the Odyssey, right? I don't know about you, but you probably had to read it in school. I read it in school.
Uh, I didn't have to read it in school, but I grew up being a big fan of Greek mythology. So I
So you
kind
read
of,
it on your own.
yeah, I read it on my own, or we watched movies, or we watched different things. So I kind of knew, a lot of it.
Yeah.
And,
So for me, I had to read it in the ninth grade. It was a part of my English class, and it's a nice story. It's long,
mhm.
it's long. So for me going in, and this is what I want. I didn't look at any. I didn't know who was in the cast. I went in completely blank because I just like
Yeah,
I just wanted to
that
go to see a movie. You know what I
that
mean?
was hilarious.
Um, I mean, I had seen the trailer. I'm like, okay. And I was like, you know what? I got nothing to do. I want to go see this movie. For the same reason. Well, there was other reasons why I went to go see Mortal Kombat 2. That's I,
The,
you.
the,
You probably remember what happened. What was going on with me personally. So I needed just to go somewhere and
yeah.
go do something.
Well,
But
the interesting thing about that movie is that every single person, like 80% of the cast, is a known actor. I
yeah,
was just watching this thing and
and I was like, me too. I was like,
I was
okay,
like,
because once again, I didn't look at the cast. So I
I
was
was
like,
like,
okay, that's
it was
Anne
like,
Hathaway,
it was
that's
like,
Elliot
I
Page.
was like, Catwoman is Spider Man's mother.
Oh! Have you, have you?
Punisher.
I've seen two memes. One where somebody literally pointed out Christopher Nolan likes working with the same people, and it pointed out everybody he's worked with in that movie before. And then I saw a meme, I think yesterday, that said something like,
he's notorious for that.
Catwoman sends her son Spider-Man.
Right.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Like
Wants to see Punisher.
To go find his dad, Jason Bourne.
Right, Jason Bourne. You got Kovacs from that same he has in Kovacs. He has in so many people that just keep.
He has Elliot. He has the
and
umbrella.
He was on an island in the end with Furiosa.
Yeah.
God. It was
but that's something like
cast.
Because let's go back to this though. For all of the people in that movie, I think they all did a great job. Oh, can't forget we got Nakima from is it not Nakima? Yeah, Nakima from Black Panther.
Yeah.
Lupita Nyong'o. When I said I didn't know, I was like, I'm just gonna go see this movie. It's Christopher Nolan.
Easily 50% of those people who were in that movie, right, have played a superhero or was in a superhero movie.
If you do that same shit, bro, I would look at a movie. I have looked at movies and been like, these two motherfuckers have worked together. You know, it reminds me of the
guy who was throwing the weapons in the hole in the end. He was the first shocker in Spider-Man. He's the shocker that got killed.
The weapons in the hole.
That was throwing the weapons down the hole in the end when they were in the room.
Yeah,
he was the first shocker.
Talking about Andrew Garfield?
No, not Andrew Garfield. No, he was.
No. I'm talking about the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man.
No. He was in. What's the first one with Tom Holland when they had the guy with the wings, Vulture, right? He was one of Vulture's henchmen. He was his first shot.
Really? I didn't know. Oh shit! And then
so many people.
John Leguizamo
from John.
Okay, so I'll be the first. I'll say this.
John Leguizamo was in a superhero movie because he was Violator in Spawn.
Oh, okay. I was gonna go with Mark, but you know what? When I looked, I was like, okay, that's John Leguizamo. But then I was looking, I'm like, that could also be Mads Mikkelsen too. But then when I listened to him speak, I'm like, nah, there's that Puerto Rican Bronx accent because I think John Leguizamo's from the Bronx. I was like, there it is.
Yeah, a lot of those guys' accents they did not hide their.
I think he did that intentionally because, as we said off camera, you know, they're not supposed to be speaking the fucking King's English as we often hear. Like these people should be in the. It's not the Mediterranean basin, but there's a term for the Mediterranean. But like they wouldn't speak like that. Hell, that type of speak didn't even exist at that point in time. And it's, you know, something else that irritates me is these people saying it's not historically accurate. Why? Because there's black people in Greece. Like, did you not know that we were there? Did you not think that Greeks knew about Northern Africa or Africa as a fucking whole? You know,
the whole thing's based on a fucking myth. It's based on a myth.
But even then, well, because Troy. Well, here's the thing: there's some truth to every myth.
Yeah.
Because Troy is a real place. But like, if you are expecting, like Cleopatra, right, with Elizabeth Taylor, you will accept this big titty white woman from Wales, because I think Elizabeth Taylor was Welsh. You will accept that, and okay, I will be the first to admit it's probably a stretch with what Jada Pinkett said that where Cleopatra was probably African. Okay, I'll say that's probably a stretch because the Ptolemaic rulers in ancient Egypt were Macedonian, right? The guy that literally was put in charge was a part of Alexander the Great's. He was one of his generals, right? So that's a bit of a stretch. But you really think it's impossible that there were no black people in Greece? We were there. Nobody's saying we were a major population, but like some of these people need to go back and look up like what these cultures actually looked like. They did not look like Elizabeth Taylor. They didn't. Some of them didn't look like fucking Brad Pitt. But you will believe Brad Pitt and all these other people existed. There was no dark skinned motherfuckers there at all. Come on, bruh. Like they were very. Some of these Greek stories take place in the north of Africa. You know, like they literally take place there. Like, what faraway lands did you think they were going to? They were not going super far north. They were within their area. They sailed within the Mediterranean, within the Aegean, you know, right there. They all knew about each other. These were not isolated peoples. Yeah. So yeah, we were there. What were stupid people? But anyway, I thought that like for all of the heavy hitters, because some of these heavy hitters, like if you add up all of their screen time, it's like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Like Lupita Nyong'o doesn't have. There's no way Lupita Nyong'o has more than a minute of screen time.
No, she has more than a minute because my son told me Zendaya has 5 minutes. So we could assume that Lupita has about that. Plus, she played 2 roles. So she could.
I doubt she has 5 full minutes. But people got to realize, like, when you're dealing with frames per second and whatnot, that's like I remember the famous breakdown of what was it? Infinity War. I think they did it. It was either Infinity War or Endgame. And no, it was Endgame. And they actually broke down per character who had the most screen time. And Robert Downey Jr. had the most. He had like 30 whole minutes of this almost 3-hour long epic, you know. Yeah. And that was one of the things.
I think if you do a movie well enough that you don't realize how little or how much a character is in it, it kind of tells you that you're kind of sucked into this story.
Yeah. There's nothing that breaks you away. But something that we probably should talk about, like for me and you, I went into it, I didn't care, I didn't know nothing about the cast. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go watch Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, right? Yeah. And I was more so looking at like how he was gonna do each event. Because once again, as I mentioned earlier, like he cut out the scene with the wind. Because remember, that extended their journey. That actually is what extended their journey by 10 years. And then you mentioned like he was there with Furiosa. That's his interpretation of the layer of the Lotus Eaters. Right. The biggest thing, I don't know if I should say this because that might be a bit of a spoiler. Well, I mean, you can't really spoil it because we know Odysseus makes it home, right?
Yeah.
So listen, I'm gonna just say this because we probably are late in saying this. Understand everything that we talk about is in the movie. Go watch it because it's not really about these fantastical events. It really is about the personalized journey.
Yeah, and the storytelling. The theme, it has themes. It has a lot of beautiful touches. A lot of the characters add a lot of character to.
Yeah.
So like, I'll give you an example. I kind of watched for this stuff. So each soldier had their own personality. Each of his personal men. They all stood different. There was a guy who always gripped his armor in the neck. There's a guy who always, they all had, they did a lot of communication where they looked at each other and just did nods. So they didn't quite just follow Odysseus. So there was a lot of undertones and stuff, which kind of shows
his right hand man when they went to the island and they ate the cattle of who was it? Helios? It wasn't Helios.
Yeah, it's Helios.
Yeah, and they said the dude told him, he's like, look, this isn't on. He basically just told him in no uncertain terms, this is not on you. We would rather eat this and suffer the wrath of the gods, which they did, and they did resign themselves to their fate. They knew it, than to sit on this island and starve. Yeah, and so, but the one thing I was like, okay. How are they? I think for me, I was looking at like, well, how is he going to interpret? Because even the sirens, I thought that was pretty cool too. Like hearing him talk about like, because the one Asian dude, I saw him jump off the boat, and I'm like, okay, I wonder how is that going to kill him? unless because the waves aren't that strong, so I don't really.
He's swimming in armor.
Okay, that's probably the
Kind of
thing.
fucking bro.
That's probably the thing because Odysseus does lose some men. No,
Yeah, he was.
does he? I don't think he loses any men when because he does put them all in
What?
the wax.
No, he
No, I'm
only
talking
loses
about the
one.
actual story.
He only loses. Yeah, he only loses that one guy. I don't know if he did it in the story because
No, I'm talking about in the actual story
I
because
can't remember. I can't remember if he did.
that's me neither. Because I'm like, I don't remember him losing any men, but I do remember. I think Odysseus was the only one who did not have the wax head.
Yeah, yeah,
But I liked how they were like they described like what the song does to you,
yeah.
and it's about those promises that you make. Because once again, folks, this movie is more so about like those themes of honor, keeping your promises. It's not just the journey where it's like the Lord of the Rings is about the journey and the things and the actual things that happen. This is about his how it affects him personally, how the war in Troy affected him, and how it's affected his decisions. But
So I'll be closing now, but I just want to ask you one question. Uh, do you think this will kind of spark more Greek mythology movies again? Because they tend to come and go. Uh, some more fantastical, some kind of done normal. Like Hercules was kind of done almost like he was an ordinary man, but the myth of him was the lie. But then you get things like Clash of the Titans, which is over the top. Do you think we're gonna probably see another epic Greek? Because the well is full. There's there's a lot of heroes over there. Do you think they're gonna go back and do another one? Not Nolan
hmm,
per se, but do you think this will cause an insurgent?
uh, no, I don't think it will. You because I just don't see. I don't see it. I don't see it doing a thing like what we saw with westerns, where Hollywood did westerns for like they did westerns so long that westerns. I don't think that you could do a western now
But
because
westerns
you
were
did.
cheap. That's why they did westerns.
Well, yeah, we
Cheap.
always yeah. I know they
They
were
were cheap.
cheap, but they did them to death.
Yeah.
Plus, you also got to remember, in like even Hollywood in the 50s and 60s, there were still a lot of places that hadn't changed that much. I mean, that's crazy to say, but you could still do them. There's not the just industrial society now. It would kind of be hard to do westerns on a certain scale, but no, I don't see it doing that. I don't see it doing what westerns did. I don't see it doing what space movies did. Um,
Or even superhero movies.
even super, yeah, I just don't see it. Um, you know, I mean, I see there's potential, but it's really going to be how you approach it.
So
Probably like one that you could probably do because Clash of the Titans is a mishmash of several stories.
yeah,
You've got Medusa. It's a
it's not a real story. It's
no.
just
It's
it's a.
almost like it's Jason and the Argonauts on LSD.
I was gonna say this when I had to try to remember what parts were not, which parts were the Odyssey and which parts were just in the Argonauts, because they are similar. They're very similar in terms of heroes on a ship traveling shenanigans. So and so when it because I was like, I sure there was a Cyclops in Jason and the Argonauts. They could do a Jason and the Argonauts movie, and that I could see that.
I mean, if you tell the story correctly,
Yeah,
yes. You can't do like Clash of the Titans where it is kind of like a complete
yeah,
fabrication of
yeah,
fabricated stories.
yeah.
But I think Odyssey is at like 300 million.
Mm.
Uh, definitely, we talk about like all the superheroes in it, and it's funny because I see my notes and I'm like, this movie did way better than Supergirl, way
Yeah,
better.
yeah,
And it was more
yeah.
entertaining, and for it being longer, I think for as much stuff as Christopher Nolan changed, I still was in there. I'm like, this is still the Odyssey, and I was able to
Yeah.
see the vision of what that was. When I watched Supergirl, I'm like, I'm not really seeing enough Supergirl. If you know what I mean, like a lot of the times when she's using her powers and she's fighting people, it's all almost off screen and whatnot, and I'm like, I'm like, this is
I think I enjoyed Supergirl for what it was, right? But I do when I was watching it, I did question the tone of the movie. The movie was dealing with heavy topics, heavy themes, but it was trying to skirt the line of do we have the hero killing people or do we
yeah,
not? And I think that kind of hurt the beginning of it. So it played a lot with the power balancing. So 1 minute her beam could cut through a door and cut a hole in a door, but another time a guy can take a full beam blast. Or the power scaling on it was a bit odd because it was trying to protect the characters until it just said fuck it in the end, and she said start to kill people because in the end a lot of those people are dead.
yeah,
They're
because you
dead.
want because it's like James Gunn is still trying to do this notion of like you don't want to be dark and gritty. Like, bro, I'll tell you, I remember, I remember being in Las Vegas back in 2020. I had this conversation with this guy. I was in a comic book shop, and bro, this is like the stupidest thing. He's like, yeah, I watched that Superman movie, and he just wasn't very heroic. He's like, if you see people in danger, your first thought would be to move the people. And I'm like, he's fighting another Kryptonian who was a fucking general. If and I had to tell him, we basically had to end it as I agreed to disagree because he was never going to see the fallacy in his logic.
Yeah.
And I tried to tell him, I was like, dude, if I'm saving the people, Zod and them figured out how these powers worked within. I like to be generous and say 24 hours, but let's be real. They figured it out in a full 8-hour workday, right?
Mhm.
Zod sees you saving the people. He's not going to, what's he going to do? Just stand there, let you move the people? No. If I'm Superman and I got to save you, I move you from point A to point B. Zod's going to follow me to point B and murk both of us. And so I think, to go to your point, I think that's what James Gunn is trying to toe the line. Like, we're heroes, we don't kill, but it's like, look at the situation you're in. Sometimes you do got to kill a motherfucker. And it's like you said, he was struggling to toe that line, even with Lobo. That's why I think Jason Momoa said that if he did a Lobo movie, it would have to be full rated R. That's why I think Lobo to me was like the best thing in that movie. Because Lobo said the girl deserved her retribution, her revenge or whatever.
I would be. I would watch. I'd watch anything, mostly, right? But I don't think I'd probably go to a theater to watch a Lobo movie. I'd watch it if it came out on streaming. I That's it for me. And that's the problem with a lot of these movies. In terms of some of the DC movies, a lot of them would be a case where I would say, "I'll just check that out on streaming." You know what I mean?
I don't know. It depends. I could do it, but I'll tell you this because I know we're gonna move on because we got some other stuff to talk about. We may just end it right here. But the way I looked at Supergirl was it was like Guardians of the Galaxy meets Supergirl.
Hmm.
The only difference is that in Guardians of the Galaxy, they murked people.
Yeah,
They knew exactly how violent they were going to
yeah,
be, and I think he tried to bring that Guardians of the Galaxy style. Because I remember, because Charlemagne said he saw Supergirl, he thought it was trash because he was like, I don't know why they just didn't take the dog to a yellow sun, right?
yeah.
And the only line in the movie that tells you the reason why they can't is because they say we can't move the dog. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
but she moved the dog there
yeah.
to get it to the hut. You're telling me as fast as
Yeah,
she can
there's
fly?
a lot of things where, so as a creator, right, when you shift, the problem is when you base something off of an original work and you change shit in it, it destroys certain, let's say, structural elements.
Yeah,
So in the original story, there was nothing wrong with Crypto in terms of he was good. But they couldn't do that in this movie because we're dealing with a different audience. So they would have kind of been like, well, what the fuck is this bullshit?
yeah.
What do you mean
There's
that
certain
there's
things
nothing
that
wrong
just
with
don't
it?
translate.
Yeah,
That's like we were talking our like in our private chats, and Monty was like, now that they cast, T'Challa, his third prediction was, oh shit, we got it. Probably should save that. Whatever. Uh or people, let me say that people will look like they want Marvel to like bring in Storm into the Marvel Cinematic Universe and then just automatically have her meet up with T'Challa. And I'm like, how does this work? You're gonna just bring this mutant in and you haven't introduced mutants properly yet? Like
yeah,
certain things just aren't gonna fucking translate,
yeah.
and you're gonna have to have them meet as adults, you know. But anyway, uh Odyssey was good. Supergirl definitely was not the best movie. Another movie I didn't really care for too much was Masters of the Universe.
I
Um,
actually liked it for what it was. It felt a bit too long, but what I kind of liked was it paid homage to the original movie, and it also kind of poked fun at itself. That
it did.
it was kind of, it was a bit too
For what it
long,
was, yes.
but
I mean,
it poked fun at itself at
it,
the
it, it
main.
made fun of its. I think it made fun of its original show.
Yes,
So
I,
there's a lot of stuff like if y'all go watch it, there's certain things that like I liked at the end when he's like still trying to go sneak off to transform, and then
it
they're all
was
sitting there like, does he know that we know? Like we already know, and they're just and Idris Elba's character, Man at Arms, he's just like just let him have it, just let him have
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Just,
So it was stuff like that. It was kind of
yeah,
funny. Like
that that
he named the heroes what he thought they would be named because of his childhood. That was funny. That was
yeah
interesting. Him meeting Dolph Lundgren in the gym,
yeah
that was cool. But it was a bit. I felt it. Oh, it felt it could have been probably tighter. It felt
yeah.
a bit long because
I
the
think
story
it's
is
also
story is a bit simple.
16 years too late because they were trying to um do one of these. What the fuck is? Hold on, get rid of that. They were floating around a script um back in the early 2000s. Uh, and when that fell through, because I used to have a friend, he used to be able to find those. And literally in that script, for those you don't know, like one page of a script is generally 1 minute of a movie. So he was like, yeah, I was just reading this Master of the Universe script, and he's like, he doesn't become He-Man until like page 110. And I'm like, and he's like, or no, like page 108. And he's like, there's like 120 pages of the script. So I was like, he doesn't become He-Man until the last 12 minutes of the movie, you know. But what I had asked Google Gemini, like, was Masters of the Universe a failure? And it was like, yeah, it only made 68 million worldwide on like $170 million budget. And I'm like, and one of the things that it said was that like it just failed to make money past its nostalgia fan base.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I'll tell you what, before we move on, I enjoyed Masters of the Universe more than I did Mortal Kombat 2.
Okay, I haven't watched that yet. I haven't
And
watched that.
like I said, if you kind of remember what was happening personally around that time, I went and saw Mortal Kombat because I was like I needed to go see something. And I remember, I think I might have sent it to you guys in the chat. I was literally the only person in that theater room. That's the first time I ever went to a movie, and I was literally the only ticket sold for that movie. I'm like, and I watched this movie, and I'm like, I can understand why this movie is ass, and it sets up for a third movie, and I do not see it getting that. I don't see Masters of the Universe getting a second movie, not anytime soon. Maybe 3, 4, 5 years down the road, if the studio doesn't have anything major on its docket
Yeah.
and it needs something, maybe.
Yeah,
But
they said it was Shira. They said it was Shira sequel in it,
yeah,
which was kind of interesting.
that might be. It depends on how they can spin it, but I just don't see it happening anytime soon. I'll put it like this: I can see a Masters of the Universe sequel or a spinoff before I see that Mortal Kombat 3. Because I didn't like Mortal Kombat 1. I saw that, and that, remember, that came straight to HBO Max, and I was like, I want a refund. And I'm like, I'm watching the shit on HBO Max.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one movie I'm not gonna go see just because I can't take it no more. I will not go see the third Dune movie.
Oh, okay. I
I'm like,
haven't watched any of them. I don't have the time. I have to sit and try to sit.
now listen, was it Adam? Was it Andrew or Adam Villanueva? It's he does a great job with that movie. There's quite a few superheroes in that fucking movie too, but I didn't realize how fucking bleak Dune is. I'm not thinking that shit. I can't take a third one.
Okay.
Let's move on. Unless you just want to go ahead and end it here. But
Yeah, I got some stuff I gotta do.
all right. Well, we'll be back next week. We'll try to be back next week. We'll talk San Diego briefly. As you guys probably know, they finally recast T'Challa. So some of y'all that have been crying and complaining can finally shut the fuck up, as far as I'm concerned. But we'll talk about that in detail in another episode. Some other things we'll talk about. But man, look, this is fun. We hope to give you guys more of this, and this is our inaugural episode of the stuff that doesn't get recorded. Make sure you like, subscribe, and all the other fun shit. Get in the comments. Let us know what you guys think. Some topics, some stuff. Other than that, y'all take it easy. Be blessed.
Good seeing you.